Howdy folks, Tex Grebner here with Tex Grebner Outdoors. New videos every week. So if you don't want to miss out on any of your Tex Grebner Outdoors Saturday morning cartoon awesomeness, you better make sure that you click subscribe, check that notification box, and check my channel every week for brand new adventures. I love reading your comments, and I really do appreciate all of you that watch. It is 2018. However, because Illinois archery season runs into mid-January, I need to catch you up on what's been going down out in the deer woods, because it is still Illinois archery season 2017. I was hunting on the ground, and I was set up on the ground because there were no trees within range of the trail that would actually support a stand that weren't honey locust and covered in 3 to 6 inch thorns. Hunting on the ground with a recurve naturally is difficult because you're pretty much on eye level with your game. Hunting on film on the ground with a recurve becomes even more difficult. However, with that being said, I'm here to bring you my archery season. And I value what I do the way that I do it much more than simply putting meat in the freezer. What on earth do you, the viewer, gain if I simply hunted on my own, for myself, never brought the camera into the woods with me? At that point, you would not even be able to complain that I never killed anything, simply because you wouldn't even be able to see it. Now, I was set up alongside of the trail that the doe had come down the night before, and I wasn't particularly hopeful, but as the sun sank lower and lower, I remained vigilant, keeping my bow in my hand and hoping that I would be able to get a shot if she came back down the ridge this evening. I was secreted away on the fence line with my outline broken up behind me, my mustache frosting in the frigid air. It was hovering just around 0. But as the light came to the end, I saw that the does had simply taken another trail down into the field, and the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole goes on. When I had packed up my gear the night before with numbed fingers in the sub-zero temperatures, I actually had broken one of my remotes. So I was having to operate one camera manually to turn it on and turn it off. So that complicated things. Now, there's a lot that goes on that you don't actually get to see that goes into filming an episode. But I'll say this: the idea of simply going out, just my bow and me, climbing up into a deer stand or sitting on a camp stool, just my bow and me, it just seems so blessedly simple. And I hate to say it, but that ain't what I'm into. I'm into bringing you along, bringing you to my cyber campfire, and telling you a hunting story. Time is a meaningless concept in hell. So it doesn't matter how long you have to sit. When it is sub-zero temperatures, there's nothing that's going to make it any better. And I'll be honest with you. When you spit and it turns into a frozen tear before it hits the snow, it's damn cold. The good news is, when it is that cold, the whitetail have to move, because it is just too damn cold for them to sit still. And so, out of a 50-50 chance of deer coming in front of me or coming behind me, I happened to be facing the wrong damn way. And so, as the sun sank lower and lower, 3 does came down the ridge behind me as the moon rose. With my cameras off, no way to turn and shoot, I heard a doe blow in my ear no more than 3 yards away as she had come down the ridge to jump the fence into the cornfield to paw at the snow. And then all hell broke loose. And that was the end of it. But I still remained vigilant that deer might just happen in front of me until the very last of light. At this point, it's not about going out and having fun. It has turned into a bit of vendetta. It was -10 when I shut off my Jeep and hiked in. Deer are wild and free, majestic creatures, and the hunt is a visceral mystery. And there's no making a deer do something other than what it already wants to do. But I knew that I was going to see deer. They might not be close enough for me to get a shot at, but I knew that with it being -10 degrees outside, they would have no choice but to move during the daylight. And so I examined the tracks in the snow that were well within range of me, watching, waiting, and listening until movement across the field drew my eye, and I had my bow at the ready. A doe was coming in. Instantly, primal excitement took hold in me, and the cold was gone from my mind, gone from my aching fingers as my adrenalized state continued, and I marveled at her beauty and majesticness until, for no apparent reason, she simply pranced away down the field. She had never remotely come within range of me. But I was so very happy that my patience had finally been rewarded to where I could at least justify the fact that I was out here, my mustache frosting over. However, there's no knowing what may happen on a hunt, and as the moon rose and the shooting light faded, I kept my bow in my hand, my fingers aching, hoping against hope that more deer might pass my secreted hiding spot. I was looking for a side-on ambush, but it was not to be. The point of sitting in this very spot over and over again was the fact that I was well brushed in from behind me, and I was brushed in on the front side of me for the most part. That way, if deer came around the corner of the field following the route, then they would be in my kill zone at a very close range before they would notice me. The tracks in the snow told me that this was a good plan. However, deer are wild and free, majestic creatures, and there is no knowing what may happen on a hunt. And so despite the fact that all my infield intelligence told me that there was a good solid chance that deer might be happening past my hiding spot, I looked across the field and saw that I had lost the high-stakes game of whack-a-mole. You see, far across the field, in another field, here were the deer pawing at the snow as the sun sank lower and lower and the moon slowly began to rise. But I remained hopeful that with these deer out and about, that deer might be coming down the ridge behind me, and that they might make their way in front of me because of all the tracks that I had seen directly in front of this spot. However, this was not to be, because 4 more deer came out of another part of the field and made their way over to join their fellows. Life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows. And deer are wild and free, majestic creatures, and hunting is a visceral mystery. So, I had sat, I had waited, I had watched, and I had listened to the birds rattling in the dead limbs above my head until the very last of light. I'm not going to lie to you. At this point in the season, it's not about having fun. It has degenerated into vendetta. It is my seppuku at the altar of nature. I will let the elements kill me if they can, and I will break myself against the wild before I give up. About the time that you think that you have things figured out, nature, which simply does not care, will laugh at you and foil your plans. So, I got into the woods early as I possibly could after my real-life obligations, and I set up right alongside where I had seen the deer frolicking the night before. From about noon on to dark, I sat, I watched, I waited, I listened, and I endured the frigid, bitter January weather of a Midwest whitetail winter. And I saw absolutely nothing. But at least I went out hunting, and that's all that matters. I'm not gonna bullshit you. Things do not look good for my deer season. The season is ticking down pretty rapidly. We're getting to the end of it at this point. I don't even know if the bucks are still carrying antlers anymore. I got a good wind tonight. I'm in a good spot. But there's no knowing what may happen on a hunt. There's nothing that's guaranteed. I do know one thing. If a deer comes by me here, it's going to have to be close. Because not only does the cold kill your dexterity, gloves kill your dexterity too. So I'm not going to send an arrow, no matter what, unless I'm sure that I literally cannot miss. But odds are nothing's going to show up. Odds are it's going to be another empty hunt. And that's just the way that things are going to be. But I'm here. I am enduring the ultimate perfect cruelty of nature. But I have the luxury of being able, when I get done, to go home to a nice warm house. And my prey, I have a huge respect for, because they live in this shit. And I am just a human predator with no clue what he's doing. As you might have guessed, I have a bit of a bow hunting obsession. And I don't hunt whitetail because I want to hunt whitetail. I hunt whitetail because they are what I have to hunt. It's not the best answer, but it's the answer that I have to give, and it's the honest to God truth. I don't hunt whitetail because I enjoy it. I hunt whitetail because they're all that I have to hunt. But I do sometimes enjoy whitetail hunting. Other times, I just do it because I'm a bow hunter. And our bow season is quite long, but it only comes once a year. And so it is a very special time of year. And I am not looking forward to its conclusion, because that means that I've got months and months of planning and preparing. And the irony is, no matter how planned and prepared you think you are, None of that matters, because I put so much work into this season only to be foiled by my own foolishness and the randomness of deer at every turn.
We're fixing to get wild.
I was surprised to see that the bucks were still holding their antlers, but I was very disappointed to see that the deer had started moving very early in the day. This buck was across the field, far, far out of range, but yet right in front of my blind. He had gotten there before I got there, and so I decided that I would see if anything else came out to the field. But I watched and waited until he made his way back up into the timber, where I could safely secret myself away in my blind yet again. The wind was right. It was bitterly cold. And while I was disappointed that he had been there before I was there, I was just very thrilled with the fact that I had seen a deer. And I was surprised, I must confess, that with the bitter cold the bucks were still holding their antlers. But you never know what may happen on a hunt. And despite the cold, despite the winter depression, and despite the fact that deer season was ticking down, I made up my mind that yet again I would sit till dark. I hunt not for the meat. I hunt purely for sport and thrill of the chase. Now, as a trophy hunter, people often dislike that. But for some reason, I guess I get a pass because I never kill anything, it seems. But anything with a recurve is a trophy. And so as the sun began to sink so low that the light was beginning to fade faster and faster, I was hopeful that maybe the buck might come back out to the field and pass my blind.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed watching this week's episode of Illinois Archery Season 2017. A hell of a lot more than I enjoyed filming it. Life ain't like the pornos, hunting ain't like the TV shows, and the sacred hunt is a visceral mystery. But I gotta close out this week, so as always, God bless all my sportsmen of America. Join the NRA to protect our rights. Please check out my friends over at SOEtacticalgear.com. Thank you very much, those of you involved in law enforcement and those of you serving in the military. And thanks for watching Tex Grebner Outdoors.